Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris and welcome to a mini review of the classic LEGO large-scale Wright Flyer, which you can see right here. This was of course the world's first aircraft and has only been replicated in LEGO form once, so it was a really cool set to build and put together in a very unorthodox design. Now this review is part of a series of mini reviews I am putting out based on a very special store in Hamburg, Germany, so do stay tuned to the channel if you want to look at some of the many misadventures I had all around shopping for LEGO in Europe, and particularly this fantastic store in Germany, which will be coming out shortly after all the mini reviews are published from my haul there. And without further ado, let's just jump right into the review. And inside here, this is set number 10124, the Wright Flyer. Check out the back of the box here, showcasing the design of the model itself. We actually have the set fully sealed. So yes, as you can see, oops, a bag fell out there. But the set here is fully sealed. I love the way the instruction manual is done, because if we take that out here, you may notice that obviously the front of it is just the box design, but the back actually has the original sketch for the Wright Flyer aircraft, so I think that's a cool touch. Kind of feels like what LEGO would do nowadays with their modern 18+ sets. And yeah, these are the fully sealed bags to make the Wright Flyer, which is very exciting. Let's get building and get reviewing.
Alright, so here we have the Wright Flyer, and as you can see, it is a pretty massive model. I mean, this barely fits in my own review studio here, but it is a really interesting one, and honestly, some parts of it do feel like it could have been made today. And that was really surprising, given that this is a fairly old set from around 2003, 2004, and it definitely does use building techniques that certainly would not pass in a set today, but there are some aspects of it that make it feel almost like a prototype version of some of the 18+ realistic models we get today. The first thing I want to start off with is the function. Yes, this has a play feature, where if you turn one propeller, the other turns, thanks to a series of change that actually accurately reflects the way the motor was set up on the actual aircraft. This was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one, because I did not even know that this was a feature. I didn't really look too closely at pictures of this set before I bought it. I just knew I wanted to have it on display, and after I looked at the box, I noticed that the chain links were included, which made me suspect there was some sort of a feature, but this is actually pretty nice and satisfying. I really do like how you can actually get the propellers spinning up quite fast. I just kind of wish that there was some way to actually actuate the propellers from the front of the ship, or the front of the aircraft, I guess, because I think it would be pretty cool to just, say, turn a gear on the front here and actually have it turn. This does have a bit of a rubber band here, which I guess you can turn, but it isn't really that good of a leverage point. I mean, if you manage to get your finger wrapped around this particular beam, then yes, but then you risk the damage of that happening, which kind of causes some things to collapse if you're just not careful with it. So as you can see, this is obviously very, very realistic and made to be very similar to the actual model in terms of the way it's constructed. It is a very, very flimsy construction that is held on by a series of beams and strings that are literally keeping things together, such as this string right here is bearing a lot of the weight of the wing. If this string separates, the entire wing kind of flops downwards, so there's a lot of questionable building techniques being used here, but I have to give it to the designers that this is actually very realistic, and the way that each of these strings and pulley systems work are exactly how it would work to actually keep the real thing together. You do have a bit of a steering thing back here where you can actually adjust the way this steers, but unfortunately, obviously, that is not controlled by strings. That really just kind of sits here. This is also held in by just this string here. You can tell the strings are very taut and they're actually bearing weight here, and you can see that it's a very, very super flimsy design that certainly would not pass for today's LEGO builds, where you just have some click hinges here and then there's just some beams on the back here and some strings holding it together, but it surprisingly feels pretty robust. The same, unfortunately, cannot be said for the wings themselves. Notice how I'm being very careful with how I'm handling this, because the way that they make you set this build up is that you build the bottom frame first, and then you build the wings one by one, which you would think makes sense, but pushing the wings down causes a lot of the internal structures to collapse, and it is really hard to actually attach the wings to the body, especially because they are attached by so many different studs. They really just kind of have you place a platform on top of the cross-studded beam, and it's really hard to actually get the grip on there to keep the wings in place. Worse off is that once you push down on the wings ever so slightly, bits and pieces of them will just fall off. Despite the pieces here technically supposed to be holding them on, these are very easily detached from the top of the platform here, and the string is literally the one thing holding almost all of this together. So it is a bit of a con there, but of course this model definitely feels like it was was made more for display rather than for play. Nowadays, if LEGO were to make this model again, they would probably try to prioritize both being able to display it and also making it very sturdy, but here, they definitely did prioritize aesthetics because it was quite an interesting time in LEGO's history where there wasn't really that many quality checks in terms of making sure sets were 100% stable and working. They kind of were just doing whatever they wanted in terms of putting models together and hoping that they would work. And this is kind of a result of that sort of ideation. There isn't much else I can say about this. Obviously, it is a fairly simple build aesthetically speaking. There's not a lot of detail going on with it. The most complex thing about it are the two chains which turn the propellers here, which obviously is a very simple but fun play feature. And of course, you can actually play around with it and swoosh it around the way the original Flyer would have worked. It just is very, very fragile, so I would recommend being very careful with it. Still, that being said, this is a very interesting model. I would love to see LEGO revisit it today. I don't know if LEGO would ever make something like it today, although maybe it could fit in the 18+ adult line of LEGO icons if they wanted to do a large-scale one. But as for now, this is the one and only one that exists. I hope you enjoyed this review of this fairly obscure set, and do let me know down in the comments below what do you think of this model.
I think a good way to wrap up this mini review is to show that the model is in fact pretty swooshable. I mean, you can see that it is not breaking after swooshing it around kind of gently throughout my LEGO collection here. And while I obviously wouldn't apply a lot of force to this, I think it actually is working out pretty well. So yes, if you do want to swoosh the glider or kind of aircraft type thing here, you can absolutely do that like so. And now I'm going to hang it up and wrap up the review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this mini review. Definitely stay tuned to the review of the amazing store that I got this from in Germany. I specifically will be putting together a separate video for that, so I hope you enjoy. And thanks so much. Like and subscribe to Duckbricks for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye for now.